Hello and welcome back to RotoWire. Welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to have a look at some popular questions ahead of game week 10 in FPL, so let's get straight into it. Right, so the first question we are going to talk about is Jean-Philippe Mateta and whether or not he is essential. At the time of recording this, he's been bought in by over 300,000 FPL managers, and it doesn't surprise me, to be honest. We obviously saw him get a hat-trick the week before last against Bournemouth. Then he played Arsenal away, so people were probably put off, rightly so, put off a little bit by that fixture. They were waiting for that Arsenal fixture to be done and they could now bring him in because Palace's fixtures are pretty good. It's Brentford, Brighton and Wolves up next, and that is a great run of fixtures. Brentford defence we know isn't great. The Brighton defence has just shipped 4 goals to Man United, and the Wolves defence is absolutely terrible right now. Burnley put quite a few past them. So the fixtures are definitely there. And Palace are playing about as good as any other team in the league right now, besides Arsenal. Arsenal are definitely the best team in the league. What is more important here is that there is a real lack of other forwards. Obviously, one spot is taken up by Erling Haaland. The other 2 spots are pretty much up for grabs. A lot of people have João Pedro in their team. A lot of people have Gyökeres in their team. We're going to talk about Gyökeres in a second. In terms of João Pedro, this seems like such an easy move. If you've got the tiniest amount in the bank because Mateta's gone up a little bit, João Pedro's gone down, then it just seems to make so much sense to do João Pedro to Mateta. What we've seen with João Pedro is that he's just not having any shots, he's not getting involved, and we thought that maybe him moving to the number 10 role would help that, but it just hasn't at all. We saw against Sunderland that he's still not involved, so I think it's time to get rid of him, and Mateta is just the perfect replacement. Like we mentioned, the fixtures are there, the numbers are outrageous from Mateta. Him and Haaland are kind of in a league of their own in terms of attacking numbers, in terms of XG, big chances, shots on target. The only players that are really coming close to him are players like Mbeumo and Thiago in individual numbers, but the two of Haaland and Mateta are miles ahead of everyone else. I essentially do think that he is pretty essential right now. I think if you really have no way to him, then you can wait a week. I just think you want him in your team. There is a world where he does start to get slightly less minutes. He will start every game in the league. You don't need to worry about that. But Nketiah is around, he is fit. So he can come on and get some minutes off the bench so that Mateta stays fresh, because Palace are having to play a lot of games right now. They're playing Europa League games midweek, they're playing Cup games midweek, and obviously they're playing Premier League games as well. Mateta will want to be getting as many minutes as possible in those games, but Nketiah will come on and get minutes so that Mateta doesn't have to play every single minute. Essentially, I do think Mateta's essential. I wouldn't be taking hits to get him. You can just wait a week, but I would make sure you've got plans to either get him this week or next week. Going on to the next question now, and who is the best budget forward? There are quite a few options. Now, I'm going to exclude Kruppi Jr. and Mark Gue in this just because I think they're kind of in a bit of a league of their own in the sense that they are so budget, and actually over the next coming weeks, they're going to become non-options anyway. I think if you really want to take money out of that forward position, then I don't mind that play at all. But it doesn't really matter which one you go for here. Like I say, in a couple weeks, they're both not going to be a thing. Delap is coming back from injury. Evan Nilsson's coming back from injury. I do think that they'll both get some minutes, and Kruppi Jr. might get more minutes, I suppose, but I don't think it matters too much. The bit that I'm going to look at is the more Strand Larsen, Thiago, Welbeck, Jimenez situation, because there are a couple of good options there, and like I say, I don't mind taking money out of that forward slot. I do think that's a good play because the forwards just aren't really doing it right now. Obviously, one slot is filled up with Haaland. I do think another slot in your forwards should be filled up with Mateta. Then there's one slot left. There are some forwards that just aren't doing it right now. João Pedro, Gyokeres, as we mentioned. So a lot of managers will be in the market for another forward, and rather than spending the money on Voltemada or someone like that, they will be looking to go down to a Thiago, to a Welbeck, to a Strand Larsen, or to a Jimenez. Now, I will say that I do think Strand Larsen is bottom of this pile. Not because he's a bad player, it's more just that Wolves really look bad at the moment. He is most likely on penalties, and he will get all of the minutes, but Wolves just aren't a good enough team for him to be able to do well enough. So I'd say he's bottom. I'd probably rank Jimenez next, just because, again, Fulham don't seem to be that great in attack at the moment. Don't get me wrong, they weren't horrendous at the weekend. They did create some chances, but I do think the other 2 players above him playing better attacks. So I would put him bottom. And obviously, when Muniz is back, whenever that is, he will most likely get rotated as well. And then the top two are Welbeck and Thiago. If you're thinking long term, I'd say that I think Thiago's a better option. I think his minutes are more secure. I think actually the Brentford attack is looking quite good right now. However, short term, I much prefer Danny Welbeck. And when I say short term, I basically mean the next 2 weeks. The reason for that is if you're making the move this week, Thiago doesn't have the best fixtures in the next 2 weeks. It's Crystal Palace away, and then it's Newcastle. Two pretty tough defences, I'd say. The fixtures do get much better after that, and he is likely on penalties in a pretty good attack as well. So I do think that long term he is the better option. But Brighton and Danny Welbeck have Leeds at home up next. Now don't get me wrong, Leeds aren't some whipping boys like West Ham and Wolves at the moment. However, that is a much better fixture than the Newcastle and Crystal Palace ones. Now, Brighton do also play Crystal Palace the week after next, but still, if you need a forward to play this week and you want someone quite short term, then I do think Danny Welbeck is the guy. The one thing I would be a little bit worried about with Hertzler, as we've seen, is that he just likes to rotate, and it's pretty random when he likes to rotate as well. Long term, if you want to keep Danny Welbeck, just be aware that in the future, he may get randomly rotated. I think we see a lot less of that from Thiago. So longer term, I do much prefer him. Okay, and the next question we're going to be looking at is, should you keep or sell Gyokeres? Now, we talked about this one last week, and to be honest, I don't really think my stance has changed. Other than that we know that the Arsenal defence is just absolutely elite now. We kind of knew that anyway. They kept another clean sheet against Crystal Palace. Didn't even really look like conceding. They never do. They've conceded 3 goals this season. On average, they're conceding 2 shots on goal every game. That is outrageously good. But anyway, this isn't about the defence. This is more about Gyökeres. The fixtures up next are brilliant. It's Burnley, it's Sunderland. And the way I see it is whichever 3 Arsenal players you've currently got right now, assuming they are all fit, if you've got Araya, Gabriel, Timber, Calafiori, Saka, Eze, Gyökeres, I think you just keep the ones you've got for the next 2 weeks. I don't think it's worth using transfers. If you're already on triple defence, great. If you're on double defence and Saka, great. If you're on double defence and Gyökeres, great. I think these players can all do well. I also think that Arsenal will score a few more goals in these next 2 games than they have been in the last few, so I don't mind Gyökeres as an option. Also, as we just mentioned, Thiago's fixtures for the next 2 aren't great, but after that, they do get pretty good. So that could be quite a good window to sell Gyökeres after Burnley and Sunderland to then get in Thiago when his fixtures get good, and that means that you're taking some money out of that forward line after Arsenal's good fixtures. So like I say, I wouldn't be selling Gyokeres if you owned him right now. I own him in my team and I'll be keeping him for the next 2. I just think that free transfers will be better used for other situations rather than switching around your Arsenal players. And the last one we're going to look at is less of a question, more of a topic. Man United midfielders, because I think this is a really interesting one this week. Bryan Mbeumo has hundreds of thousands of transfers in this week already, and for good reason. Don't get me wrong, he is absolutely brilliant. The numbers he's putting up are fantastic. I talked about Mateta and Haaland putting up ridiculous numbers in terms of shots. Third is Mbeumo in shots this season in total. He's obviously top amongst midfielders, so he is getting himself into really, really good positions. Man United are looking pretty good right now, so I do believe that Mbeumo is a really good option. The one thing I will say is that the other options are also great. You've got someone like Matheus Cunha. I do think he's going a little bit under the radar. I mean, given that they are pretty much the same price, I think there's 0.3 or something between them. You maybe do just go for Mbeumo, but I do think that Cunha's a really good option. Whenever he gets the ball, he is incredibly greedy, so he will just randomly shoot. Even if that's from outside the box, he will pick up goals, he will pick up assists. So I don't think that he's necessarily that much worse of an option than Mbeumo. I'm not even sure he is a worse option than Mbeumo. He just needs to actually stay fit, because obviously he was injured quite recently. And then there's Bruno Fernandes. He is obviously more expensive than these other guys. He's playing deeper than these other guys, but he is on penalties. Or at least we assume he's on penalties. The last one that he got, he did miss, obviously. I would be very surprised if he's not on penalties anymore. The one thing that we do like from Bruno Fernandes, 1, his minutes are just incredible. 2, he does get forward in these games. He does crash the box. He does pick up chances. He does create a load of chances in every single game. If you watch the highlights of a Man United game, you will see a chance created or a chance by Bruno Fernandes. I do just think that the problem he's got is his price. 8.9 million I think he is now. That is pretty expensive, especially when you can get Mbeumo for almost $1 million cheaper. You can get Cunha for about $1 million cheaper. And I think an interesting comparison at the moment is with Szoboszlai from Liverpool, because they're essentially playing in quite similar position most of the time. So Szoboszlai is obviously playing at number 10 sometimes, at right back sometimes, but he is also playing in the midfield alongside whoever it may be, Jones, McAllister, Gravenberch. And what we've seen is that Bruno Fernandes and Szoboszlai are both very, very good for defensive contributions in there. Szoboszlai does have more defensive contributions on the season. I guess that could be because he's played at right back and you typically pick up more at right back. However, they both look really good for defensive contributions. So the only difference between them, technically, is obviously the team they play for, but also that Bruno Fernandes has penalties. The obvious other difference is the price. Szoboszlai is 6.5 million, Bruno Fernandes is 8.9 million. So you've got 2.4 million in between them. And I guess it then depends how much do you value penalties at. Man United do typically get quite a lot of penalties compared to other teams. We've already seen that this season, we saw it last season. It's just whether that many penalties is going to be worth the extra 2.4 million. A lot of people will think it will be. And I guess this season, where we've got so many good budget defenders, the likes of Palmer's currently out, Saka isn't necessarily essential right now, neither is Salah. Maybe we don't have these budget constraints, so Bruno Fernandes might be the one to go for, even though he's probably not great value at his price. We don't need the funds, so it might be worth just going for the penalty taker. That's all for this one. If you did like the video, make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you're checking out rotowire.com/soccer, all sorts of good stuff on there. You've got weekly articles, the weekly rankings, you've got stats charts, all sorts of good stuff. Make sure you're checking it out, but do hit like, do subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.